Okay, hi there again. So I've entered my data. I'll show a few other changes here. I've noticed when I look at my unformatted data and the figures, I've made a few errors. Notice it says $4,035.25 here, and I accidentally put an 8 in here. Now, in Excel, if you just start to type, you'll notice that it's going to, also typing 4,000, it starts to replace all of the cell contents. I don't want to do that necessarily, so I'm going to click undo. I'd like to just edit this out. If I want to edit a cell, I have to double click on it. So I'm going to double click right here close to the between the 5 and the 8. There we go. Now I can just press delete and enter on my keyboard to complete that. I also made an error here, I believe, on it should be 15,223. I did 15,233. I'll double click on it, backspace, type in the correct number, enter the number below it as well. Made another mistake. Double click, backspace, and a 9. Okay. I'm gonna enlarge this so I'll maximize my screen here. And where is my A column gone? This may happen to you where you sort of lose track of where you are. Excel has a scroll bar along the bottom here, so that can help you get back. But you may, for example, you may at some point find yourself way out in no man's land. So right now, for example, I'm in column AX, row 36, and it shows me here in the name box actually where my current position is. So AK23. If I want to get back to A1, I can click there and type A1 and press enter, and it'll take me back home to the first position. So no matter where you go, if you end up somewhere way out there in no man's land, just click there once and type A1 and enter, you'll get back home. Okay. First of all, I typed all these digits. They're supposed to look like dollars, but they don't. They just look like random numbers. So I'm going to make that change first. I'm going to highlight all of my numbers that I want to give a formatting called the accounting style formatting. This little dollar sign here represents accounting. You can also find it, notice that the word general is showing here at the top in the number formatting. There are lots of different formatting you can choose from. I like the accounting one because it puts dollar signs along the left-hand side of the column. No matter how wide your column is, it leaves them there. It looks nice and tidy. And again, here's my number signs, meaning the column is just too narrow. Just either double click or drag that column wider. If I double click, it'll size it for me perfectly. I'm going to do the same thing down here at the bottom. I want these ones to have the accounting style, so I'm just going to click on the dollar sign this time, and they also look nice and tidy. Okay, I'm going to make this column a bit wider because I can tell right away that numbers aren't going to fit in this one, and probably not in that one either. Total, I want to know how much I made selling hockey sticks from January all the way through February. What's my grand total? Well, if I want to calculate a total in Excel, I can apply a formula. So I've highlighted all the way from 1,499. Just hold down my left mouse button and drag over those four numbers. Adding is so common that there's a quick shortcut here on the Home tab. So Home tab has most of your common functions, including Autosum, which is just to add it up. So I will click on that, and I guess I didn't make the column quite wide enough, so I'm going to double click there. I see my total. Now, it looks like $8,886.30, and that's what we'll print, but remember the true contents of this cell, I didn't type that. I didn't type 8886.30. I used the formula. The formula bar will show you what actually happened to calculate that figure. I took the sum of C2 to F2, and that was the formula that was applied. I'll press enter here to finalize that total. Okay, let's do it one more time. I'll highlight these numbers here for jerseys. How much did I make total from selling jerseys for those first 4 months? Well, I click auto sum. Now maybe even before I do, notice down here at the bottom it's giving me some figures. This is the auto calculate area. It's telling me the sum should read $18,909.55. And the average of those 4 months is 4,727, and I highlighted 4 items. So that's a quick way to kind of get a visual. But I'm going to put that number in there by clicking the Autosum. And again, my columns, I'm going to make it really wide here on purpose just so I don't have to keep stretching it. Okay, $18,909 was the sum of C3 to F3. So from C3 all over to F3, that's what it's calculated. I'm going to click Enter to get myself out of there. Okay, shortcuts. Now I could keep highlighting across and clicking the sum and highlighting across, clicking the sum. Instead, I'm going to use the fill handle. In the first video, I explained the fill handle. It copies and pastes. What's inside this cell? It looks like a number. It's not a number. It is a formula. I can use, whoops, let me undo there. I can use this formula and apply it to all of these cells all at once by using the fill handle. Here we go. I'm just going to drag down. It sort of skips its way along, so have faith that it's going to work, and I'll let go, and there is all of my sums. If I click on this one, this is the sum of C4 to F4. Excel understands how to change the formula C5 to F5, C6 to F6, C7. It understands by how far you drag the fill handle. This is something called relative reference. Excel will copy a formula and modify it according to how far you drag the fill handle from its original position. So because I dragged that fill handle, approximately 10 or so cells, it modifies my formula each time. And the farther I drag it, the more it modifies it. What's happened here? Well, it's actually added up C12 to F12, but C12 and F12 is all 0. 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 is 0. So I can highlight these two cells and press delete on my keyboard, and that sort of erases that information. There's another column here called averages. Now, the average, I don't want to include the total number in my average, or that'll throw off the average. The average should be, okay, for hockey sticks, for example, how much money did I make on average selling hockey sticks, comparing those 4 months? Well, I start by highlighting those months. If I click Autosum, it's just going to add it again, but notice there's a little arrow, drop-down arrow here, and it gives me a few different options, including average. Now Excel will figure out, because I've highlighted here and this cell is full, it will actually jump over that and put it in the next available cell. So when I click average, there it is. It has calculated the average of C2 right here to all the way to F2. Okay. I'll do that one more time. I'm going to highlight across those cells. I don't want to include the total. I will create an average by clicking average. Now, because I want to do that many times, I'm going to copy that formula using the fill handle. I'm going to drag that bottom right hand position all the way down, and notice some of the answers are too big to fit, so I'll just double click here and make it cell wider. And it also doesn't understand that 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 divided by 4 or divided by 0 is not it doesn't understand it. So I'll highlight those two figures and press delete, and that will clean up that mess. A couple more totals to do here. If I want to know how much did I make in sales for January, well, I would have to add up all of my January figures by highlighting sticks to jerseys, skates, all the way down to shoulder pads, and then click the Autosum. So that represents a formula, C2 to C11. It's added it up. I'll do it once more for February. I'll highlight those numbers and click Autosum, and I made a lot of money in February. Now remember, this is a formula. It looks like a dollar figure, but it's actually the sum of D2 to D11. I'm going to grab that and I'm going to drag it across. I'm going to drag that fill handle across and add up all of my totals, including the grand total, the sum of G2 to G11. This number here, 299, is kind of special. It represents the total of my totals. How much did I make in sales for all of my merchandise? One more time, I need to figure out for my my services, my sharpening and figure skating, power skating. I'm going to create a total there by clicking Autosum, and I'm going to use the formula this time and just quickly drag it across and apply that same formula to all of those figures, and I quickly get a sum. might want to take a moment right now and save your work if you haven't already saved it, because that's a lot of material. Save. And when we come back, we'll look at creating your own formulas.